car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
And welcome to the attorneys. I'm Art Franklin. Our topic is going to resonate with a lot of people, but the approach that you're going to learn about here is quite different from what you may have heard about in the past. We're talking about divorce, but in a really different way. Art Franklin here, along with Carter Clay, of course, with Hollis, Wright. And we got a special guest with us, Liz Farrell. Good to have you with us, Liz.
Thanks for having me, Art.
Yeah, absolutely, Art. This is going to be an interesting twist. We've done a lot of shows in the past related to divorce.
Correct.
Almost always, if not always, we've had a lawyer or an attorney come on the show and talk about the legal process involved in individuals who've been married getting a divorce. That is what we would typically refer to as the traditional route or the traditional approach towards getting a divorce. Liz is going to share with us tonight a new alternative approach that I think the viewers are going to be very interested in if they find themselves going through a difficult time in their marriage and they are confronting divorce. Unfortunately, society is still plagued by divorces every single day. Although, as I was getting prepared for the show, I did notice over the last decade, we've been really kind of on a downward trajectory, a slight downward trajectory in terms of the percentages of divorces in society. But it is still a big issue out there. It keeps a lot of lawyers in business, and there are a lot of people going to see lawyers about divorces. But Liz has developed a new business model, and you can find it on divorce.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And basically, as I understand it, I'll kind of set the stage for you. It's just an alternative approach or an alternative pathway for couples who are interested in getting a divorce that really does not involve hiring a lawyer and does not involve going the traditional legal route.
That's correct. Certainly we see attorneys as being a big part of our ecosystem, so using attorneys when you need them and using software when you don't. So think about divorce in sort of three parts. You have negotiation, you have paperwork, so documenting the negotiation, and then you have filing, so making it legal with the court. So what we do essentially is use a different method to get into agreement than essentially fighting through the court system, which is the traditional approach.
What was the initiating factor behind you starting this business? How long have you been in business doing this, and sort of what transpired in your life that led you to start this business?
Well, I have a computer science degree, hometown girl, Birmingham Southern grad, computer science degree, and anyway, and so pretty much my entire career has been looking at business processes and trying to improve those through software. I had an opportunity to acquire the largest processor of divorce paperwork in the country. We've actually processed over 1 million divorces throughout our 20-year history, and in all 50 states and about half of the Canadian provinces. And so I had the opportunity to also acquire the park domain, divorce.com, and so I'm kind of combining the two, and then putting mediation on top, and we can talk about what that means a little bit later, but kind of developing a new product that's not just processing paperwork.
Yeah, so you're doing this on a national basis, although we're here in Alabama, kind of centrally located in the north central area of Birmingham, but you're doing this on a national basis.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Give us some idea as to what a person can expect if they go to your website, sort of hit the high points of the step-by-step process that they might experience with your company.
Right, so it kind of depends on what you need, but assuming that you need some sort of help getting in resolution or going through negotiation, our most expensive product is around $2,000. And so what you do is you just simply sign up. We assign a case manager to you who's sort of your camp counselor, if you will, through the process. They will welcome you, have an onboarding call, take you through what the process is going to look like, understand from your spouse, the level of assets, the level of debts, are there children, are there custody concerns, where are we apart on what we need to figure out, and then we set up mediation sessions for you to resolve those problems. Once you're kind of in agreement on everything, We produce paperwork, and then we file that paperwork with the court, and the court approves it, and you're divorced.
Yeah, so I guess at some point, both the husband and the wife mutually have to agree to this process.
That's correct.
Are they typically coming to you and your service jointly together, or is it oftentimes a situation where one might apply, provide you information, and then y'all work to maybe get the other spouse on board to utilize the service?
I think in every divorce, there's a lead and there's a follower. So, I mean, we see that in our own case. I think you see that in the traditional approach where there's one person that initiates the divorce, files the divorce, they're the petitioner, and then the second spouse is the respondent. And so we really have created that same situation in an online world.
Now, I know every case or situation is different, but what is sort of the shortest amount of time to the longest amount of time that they typically could expect if they utilize your services in terms of getting their divorce completed?
Yeah, so a lot of times that depends on, it's a per state basis on if there is a waiting period. So California, I believe it's 6 months or maybe even a year, maybe a year is North Carolina, but if there's a waiting period. So as soon as as soon as you answer a questionnaire and produce paperwork and sign it, that goes at your own pace.
Yeah.
So if you could do that quickly, then some people can produce that paperwork overnight.
Yeah. So you're saying this is a good pathway or alternative approach for people out there to perhaps get a divorce. I was joking before we went on set. I was like, I think this is going to be a really fantastic show. I just hope personally, after many years of marriage, I don't need these services.
I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you show up.
However, I'm sure that every married couple out there has that same thought that they don't ever want to have to utilize these services. But just like we're a personal injury law firm, nobody wants to get involved in an accident and get injured, but unfortunately it happens from time to time. So.
And the other part of this, though, Liz, as I think about it, divorce, as you know, can be so emotional and can have such a financial strain and burden on the couples. How does this mitigate that?
I think it encourages, one of our goals is that we eliminate unnecessary trauma in the process. I think fighting to fight, encourages you to destroy each other, right? And so if you think about the anxiety and the stress that, being served with a lawsuit, when that's what happens in traditional divorce, that's what happens in the online environment, but y'all are kind of developing the packet together and pushing it through the court. But in the traditional sense, somebody files a lawsuit and you've got to respond to it, and that just sort of amps up anxiety, and then people kind of get in this sort of fight or flight, War of the Roses kind of style thing. And so we use mediation as a means to not do that.
Yeah, I was talking to a mediator a couple of weeks ago who mediates divorce cases. He was like, it's amazing. He goes, common sense is out the door. Absolutely. A lot of times when you're dealing with divorced couples, and there'll be situations where people will pay $10,000 in legal fees arguing over a $500 set of forks and knives. And it just doesn't make any sense, but it's the principle of the matter. Emotions are running high. And I think what Liz's company will offer people is a sort of cooler heads prevailing mentality. Let's get together, let's work this out, and try and help them understand the economics involved in this, where it makes sense to maybe go this route in situations where it's beneficial to them to do so.
Absolutely, and we're just scratching the surface of divorce.com. That is a new service, and you just heard a little bit about it, but Liz is going to unpack it a little bit more. We want to go to break, though, and give you an opportunity to call an attorney right now. It may not be about divorce, but about something else that you have a question right now. Someone from Hollis Wright will answer the phone at 1-844-LAW-TALK. You can reach a live attorney. They're standing by taking your call. It is a free and confidential call as we continue here talking about divorce, divorce.com, a unique service. More on that when we come back after this.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best: help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas, such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law, such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Did you know when you have to take a case all the way to trial, there is almost always insurance involved? Don't take on large insurance companies on your own. Our attorneys are standing by right now to give you a free consultation. At Hollis Wright, your result matters.
Welcome back to The Attorneys. We're talking about a very unique program called divorce.com, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But I want to remind you, there's a QR code on the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and scan that QR code. You can ask your questions, and someone from Hollis Wright will get back to you. Also taking your calls live right now at 1-844-LAW-TALK. And we want to get more into divorce.com and hear more from Liz on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about the cost of your services. I know you mentioned that earlier, but sort of what is the low cost and the high cost? I think you mentioned was around $2,000 for your most expensive package. And how does that compare to somebody going in the traditional route of hiring a lawyer? Do you have any statistics in terms of the average cost or fees that somebody might pay lawyers during the traditional route as it compares to y'all's services?
Sure. Maybe let's start there. So 42% of divorces in the U.S. cost somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000. So, I mean, that's a really big number, right? The average American household or average American couple has about $120,000 in net assets, 12,000 of which is liquid. So you can see that like a traditional divorce is more than $12,000, right? And so that puts people sort of essentially in like liquidity bankruptcy, if you will. And it's a huge, huge financial stressor to families. And so we are able to achieve a similar result from anywhere between $500 to around $2,000, depending upon what you need. So our $500 is our entry product. It's purely paperwork. So we talked a little bit at the beginning of the show about sort of the three parts of divorce: negotiation, paperwork, and then filing. So there are different ways to get in, to conduct a negotiation or to get an agreement. One of which we call the kitchen table divorce, right? So the thought there is the spouses sit at the kitchen table and resolve their differences, figure out how to divide everything, and so they've made all those decisions. They don't need any help in figuring that out. And so our paperwork product is perfect for them. They just come, fill out our questionnaire, print it out, and then they can go and file on behalf of themselves with the court. It's just like confusing and kind of a pain. And so for $749, we also file for you and handle all that. That's just, we have a team of people that handles the filing. For about, I think it's $1,200, we have a product called Assisted Divorce, where we also assign you a case manager and kind of, again, really help you through that process, answer non-legal questions along the way. If you have a legal question, we have an attorney network that supports us with that. And then all the way to fully guided, which is we're not in agreement. We want to be, right? We're aspirationally uncontested, if you will. And so that's where we have mediators that help you resolve those differences, produce the paperwork, and then file it on your behalf.
I've always heard, other than the monetary divisions that go into a divorce, I've always heard that children are typically always the biggest sticking point in a divorce, whether it be custody, visitation, those types of things. Number one, is that accurate? Is that what you find to be typical in situations? And what are some of the other sticking points that you find that may take something uncontested and turn it into contested?
I think that children is a very big sticking point. And I see where people are successful in getting divorced by putting the kids first and understanding to put the children's needs first and kind of let some differences lie to put the children first. And so I think in situations like that, you can see people really be successful. And hey, listen, the world kind of starts with divorce for your co-parenting relationship. And so you want to set up a good co-parenting relationship as well. But one of our, probably one of the biggest drivers, I'm a mom of 4, and so just the idea of a kid being used as a negotiation peg is just something, that is devastating to me. And so that is actually when we mediate, one of the first things we try to negotiate them out first, so that we're not using them as part of the negotiation strategy.
Now the case managers or counselors, as you described them earlier, those are non-lawyers, correct?
They are.
And you've mentioned that you have lawyers who you partner with from time to time. Give us some idea or examples as to when you might engage an attorney for a couple that is utilizing your services where you feel like an attorney is needed. Okay,
so one of the most basic things that we use an attorney for seems like you wouldn't even need to use an attorney for, but it's a legal question. So where should I file? I was married in Wisconsin, but I live in Alabama. Do I get divorced in Wisconsin? And really, we have a lot of documentation that people can go and read and decide those things for themselves. But we can't, as non-lawyers, just answer that question for you, because that is actually legal advice. So that's one example. I think there are other, when people are sort of getting started with the process outside of process questions, right? When we talk about actual advice, should I do this? Should I do that? We need to get an attorney involved. And so we have an attorney network built out for just that purpose. Another place that we like to use attorneys is just like a peace of mind check. So you've made these decisions. Let's say, for example, you don't go through mediation, you don't do the sort of more concierge level of an assisted divorce with us, and you just do a kitchen table divorce, and you fill out the paperwork, and you just want an attorney to hey, did I do this right?
Right.
This is what I understand that we did. Is that what it says in this legal document? And you just want somebody to bless it. Our attorney network does that as well. And then there are situations where, a lot can happen when a divorce gets started, and it turns more towards a War of the Roses type situation.
Right.
And then our attorney network can do a full sort of traditional engagement as well. Yeah. So,
all right, I know we're about to go to a break. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about her company's success rate, though, in handling these for people when we get back. And we're also going to talk about some circumstances where perhaps the platform might not be suited for somebody and they may need to go to the traditional route.
All right, we're talking divorce.com on the attorneys. I want to remind you also to follow Hollis Wright on all the social media platforms, on X, on Twitter, which is Twitter, on Instagram, and also Facebook, and share those and And also subscribe to them as well. You get information throughout the week, so you don't have to just wait until Sunday evening for this show. So make sure you join Hollis Wright on the social media platforms. We're going to continue with this discussion when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon. We love this state and its great people. People that are worth fighting for in their lowest moments. It's what drives our lawyers to do what we do. We're here right now to fight for you. At Hollis Wright, your result matters.
And welcome back to The Attorneys. We're so glad that you are staying with us. We also don't want you to miss this opportunity to speak with an attorney at Hollis Wright. They are standing by live throughout the show to take your call. That number is 1-844-LAW-TALK, 1-844-LAW-TALK. That call is free, that call is confidential, and they'll take that call right now. But we're talking divorce.com as we're kind of wrapping things up now.
Yeah, Liz, when we went to break, I mentioned about the success rate of the people that hire your company to help them get through a divorce or get it finalized. Do you have any percentages, like what percentage of people that utilize your services wind up completing the process through your company and getting a divorce?
Yeah, I mean, we believe that that percentage to be north of 90% of folks, and we're really basing that on, you know, our refund rate. So when people call in and need a refund because it's turned totally, you know, totally contested, or hey, sometimes things just work out and people give another shot. Mm-hmm. You know,
well, that's true too. Yeah, reconciliation.
Right, and so I mean, we're very happy for folks when that happens as well.
Yeah, so you've got a very high percentage success rate, so that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about the mediation process, and I want to unpack that a little bit more, get a little bit more detail about that. That's something that we're familiar with at our firm. We go through mediations all the time in our personal injury lawsuits that we're involved in, where we'll hire a neutral third party. But what does a mediation look like for people that hire you through divorce.com?
Right, so the way that we handle mediation, we have an agenda, you know, so we cover different topics, whether it be, you know, custody, asset, debt division, support, you know, future ongoing support such as alimony and child support. So, you know, we have kind of topics and understand the decision points that need to be figured out, but it just happens over Zoom.
Okay.
And so we have, you know, a very experienced staff that's very experienced with divorce, mediation specifically, that kind of conducts these mediations. And essentially, they have a set of tools that help you talk amongst yourselves as spouses. I'm sorry, I'm tripping on my words a little bit here, but just to get into an agreement on how to settle those things. Because if you can get into an agreement on all those aspects that we talked about earlier, then you can sign paperwork and file it and get divorced.
Yeah, so is it the case manager that they've been working with, that they function as the mediator, or is it typically somebody else within the company?
It's somebody else within the company. You know, so we want them to serve as sort of wearing two different hats. You know, you really need to get into that mediation and feel the neutrality.
Yeah.
And divorce is so very personal. How do you handle the privacy issues along with divorce?
Well, I mean, we don't tell anybody anything, and we've got, you know, all the sort of industry standard security measures around it, and I mean, just in the same way that you would handle your client records and, that kind of stuff.
Confidentiality and privacy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So if I'm kind of getting my arms around this whole process, and it sounds like the service is really, you've got two people that are really representing themselves, but they'll have a case manager, and then ultimately if they go to mediation, they'll have a mediator, but they're in charge of their own case, and you've got these individual employees that work with you that are helping them each step of the way try and negotiate and resolve any differences that they have, ultimately lead to a point to where literally they're signing off on their own paperwork that is created, because you have to file it with the court because you got to have a judge's approval of the divorce, right?
That's correct.
But that sort of sounds like, I think, of an overview of kind of what your services offer.
Yeah, you got it. That's it.
Well, so I want you to talk a little bit about your website for a minute, divorce.com, because I got on it before the show and looked at it. It's incredibly user-friendly. But what are some of the things you would want the viewers to know if they were trying to navigate your website, learn more about your company, to see if it's something that they want to do?
Well, it's easy to remember. So that's one of the reasons why we acquired this website. But just come to divorce.com. We've explained, how the process works. You can also schedule an appointment with one of our case managers prior to becoming a customer, and kind of hear more about it. You can additionally sign up for the service, and we do have like a refund window. Barring you've produced paperwork and actually used the product. If you're in that refund window, we just give you your money back. So it's safe to kind of get on and give it a shot.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. You just go to divorce.com and sign up just like you would sign up for any old thing.
Now, with anything out there, and this is going to save your company time, and I think save some of the viewers' time, the platform or this pathway is not for everybody.
That's right.
As I understand it, there are some factual circumstances that might exist that would be a situation where they would just need to go the traditional route and hire a lawyer. What are those circumstances?
Yeah, certainly in cases of abuse. So, cases of abuse, mediation is not the right fit, and certainly kitchen table divorce is not the right fit, right? So where you have somebody that's sort of in control and somebody that is a victim, that victim really needs legal representation, and so we would never recommend that. Happy to refer them to somebody in our attorney network. Happy to do that, but a mediated divorce or a kitchen table divorce would not be a good fit for them.
Yeah. Well, Liz, thank you so much for being with us here today. This has been incredibly informative. It's always nice to have a non-lawyer on the show. We don't do that very often, but Liz is not a lawyer, thankfully.
I'm honored to have come today.
Well, we really appreciate you being here with us and sharing this information. This has been a tremendous show, Art, and we have her back again.
That's right. Liz Farrell, divorce.com.
That's right.
All right. I want to thank you guys for joining us as well. I want to remind you, though, to also join the Hollis Wright social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, where you can get information throughout the week on what's happening in the legal world and also what's happening with Hollis Wright. Stay in touch with us. Make sure you join us again next week. We'll be back here again, same place, same time, as we continue with another edition of The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.